Los Angeles, 1969. CBS Television City. Friday night. Steve McQueen is in the building. The parking lot is lined with black town cars. The green room is small, private, reserved for McQueen and his people. He isn't here to perform tonight. He's here to watch his friend, Bruce Lee, who has just finished a live demonstration. The audience loved it. The producers loved it. But not everyone in the room was impressed. Steve McQueen's head of security was a man named Ron Chabsky. Nobody called him Ron. They called him the Mountain. 6'5", 350 pounds, a former wrestler out of Detroit. Ron believed in exactly one thing: mass wins. Speed is a trick. Technique is for tournaments. In the real world, the bigger man always wins. He had never lost a fight in his life, and he had never once been nervous. Until tonight. Bruce Lee stood in the corner, a towel draped over his shoulders. 135 pounds. Ron had watched the demonstration. Pretty, he thought, but not real. He'd taken apart plenty of men who believed they could fight. When the producer stepped out of the room, Ron made a decision. He crossed the floor in 4 heavy strides and planted himself between Bruce and the door. "Nice little show out there," Ron said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Bruce turned around calmly, a glass of water in his hand. He looked at Ron the way you look at the weather, something you notice, not something you fear. "Thank you," Bruce said. "Looked real pretty," Ron went on. "But all that stuff works fine on television. What happens when somebody doesn't stand still? What happens when somebody fights back?" The room went quiet. A makeup artist froze mid-motion. Steve McQueen leaned against the wall, watching. He knew this tone. Bruce set the glass down slowly. "You have a question? Ask it." Ron smiled the smile of a man who already believes he's won. "I say we find out. Right here. Right now. No cameras. No choreography. Just you and me." McQueen called out, "Ron, enough." Ron didn't listen. He stepped closer. 350 pounds looming over 135. "What do you say, little dragon? Want to show me what you've got?" Bruce didn't step back. He tilted his head, just slightly. "Are you sure?" Ron laughed, short and brutal. "I've never been more sure of anything." What happened next lasted less than 10 seconds. Steve McQueen would describe it, years later, in exactly 4 words. It wasn't a fight. Ron threw the first punch a straight right hook, fast for a man his size. Brutal. It hit nothing. Bruce wasn't there anymore. He hadn't jumped back. He'd simply rotated, minimally. Ron's fist tore through empty air. Before he could recover his balance, he felt something around his wrist. Not a grip, just fingertips. Then, the room tilted. Ron didn't understand what was happening. His balance was simply gone. He hit the floor hard. 350 pounds of flesh and bone landed hard enough to rattle the mirror on the wall. Anger took over. Ron got up. He'd been knocked down before. A man always gets back up. He grabbed Bruce's ankle, a massive hand closing around the small joint. He wanted to pull, twist, force this small man down to the ground, where mass was the only thing that mattered. Bruce offered no resistance. He did something Ron would never understand. He let himself fall like water. His free leg swung up in an arc. The heel caught Ron directly under the chin, not hard enough to break bone, but hard enough to turn out the lights. Ron's grip released. His head hit the floor. This time, he didn't try to get up. The room was dead silent. Bruce stepped back. No aggression left in him. No threat. "Someone should get him some water," Bruce said calmly. "He'll be dizzy when he wakes up." Bruce walked over to his bag, pulled out a clean shirt, and put it on slowly, buttoning it as if nothing had happened. Steve McQueen stepped forward. He stared at Bruce for a long moment. "How?" McQueen asked. Bruce smiled, tired. "He grabbed my ankle because he thought that would give him control. But a grip is a commitment. The moment you grab, you can't change direction anymore. I just gave him a result he wasn't expecting." Ron was sitting on the floor now, holding his head. He looked up at Bruce, not with anger anymore, but with something closer to fear. He had never felt that helpless in his life. Bruce met his eyes. "You're strong," he said. Very strong. But strength is just a tool. If it's your only tool, you become predictable. And predictable means vulnerable. Bruce walked to the door, then turned back once more. Mr. Chapsky, next time you want to test someone, ask first. You might learn more from a conversation than from a confrontation. The door closed behind him. Steve McQueen lit a cigarette, blew the smoke toward the ceiling, and said to no one in particular, "Told you he was fast." 3 days later, Ron quit. He disappeared from Hollywood entirely. He spent the next 6 months looking for answers, moving through dojos, boxing gyms, karate schools. Nobody moved the way Bruce Lee moved. One evening, he ended up in Chinatown, a small studio. An old master named Wong. The old man looked up at the massive white man standing in his doorway. "You want to learn," the master said. "Why?" Ron answered honestly. "Because someone showed me. I don't know anything." Master Wong smiled. "Good. That's where learning begins." Ron trained there for 2 years. He never became fast. He never became graceful, but he learned humility. One evening, over tea, Master Wong told him, "You're different than when you arrived. You came with shame. Now you carry peace." Ron confessed. "I met him, Bruce Lee. I thought I could beat him. He took me apart in 8 seconds." Master Wong nodded slowly. "Bruce gave you a gift in that moment. He emptied your cup. Only then could you fill it with something real." Years passed. In 1973, Bruce Lee died. Ron heard the news on the radio. He sat still for a long time. He went to the memorial and stood far in the back, unnoticed. He watched Steve McQueen standing near the front. Ron thought back to the green room, to the humiliation that had, in its own strange way, saved his life. Bruce Lee hadn't just taught him a lesson in fighting. He had given him a possibility, the possibility of becoming someone else entirely. Ron Chapsky died peacefully in 1998. Until the end, he taught something that wasn't quite technique. He taught something closer to truth. The story of the green room was never written down officially, but it survived anyway, passed quietly from person to person. On a Friday night in 1969, a giant learned that mass means nothing when you're trying to hold on to water.